reality is that the first time I said I want to be an engineer was I was 3 years old.
Okay.
Because for me, I was fascinated by trains.
Okay.
And for me, I thought that the person who pilots the locomotive of a train.
Is it true? Every boy growing up in India wants to become engineer is one who runs the engine, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I thought. Especially after what Mr. Amir Khan spoke in Three Idiots. You know that people who have no clue, first they become engineers and then they become MBA in finance.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you know Aashish. You are my 3 years my senior in Nursing Monji. That makes you older than me, right? So we are both from Nursing Monji in Bombay.
लेकिन जब आप एमिरेट्स का A380 फ्लाइट का जब एरो ब्रिज में जाते हैं ना, तो पहले एक लेफ्ट टर्न आता है फर्स्ट क्लास का, फिर बिजनेस क्लास भी आता है.
Have they designed it purposely that you pass through first class?
मुझे तो ऐसा ही लगता है.
Hello and welcome everyone to AUM Finance Podcast. This podcast discusses the first principles of investing and is for informational purpose only. We intend to add to the body of knowledge. Please consult your financial advisor before taking any investing decision.
So, hi everyone. This is Nirav Panchmatia from the AUM Finance Podcast. And today there is something unique. This episode is known as the interview. So the interview section of the AUM Finance Podcast, I get an opportunity to have a dialogue and the opportunity to brainstorm the cream de la cream of the finance industry. Now you would be wondering, whom do I have today? So we have an almost financial wizard, I would say. We have Aashish Somaiyaa with us. Aashish, let me introduce as currently the MD and CEO of Whiteoak Mutual Fund. Formerly, he was also an MD and CEO of Motilal Oswal Mutual Fund. He almost launched it and managed it for 8 years, took it to new heights. Aashish, you started as an analyst with ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund. And from there, in a very short time, you rose to become the MD and CEO first for Motilal, and now working with Mr. Ramdev Agarwal, and now Whiteoak Mutual Fund. Now, what is Whiteoak? It was founded by Mr. Prashant Khemka. Mr. Prashant Khemka formerly was the Chief Investment Officer of Goldman Sachs Mutual Fund, right? And Whiteoak manages almost 7 billion USD.
Yes.
5 billion in offshore funds.
Yes.
What are offshore funds? If you are outside the geography of India and if you want to invest in India, that is an offshore fund.
Absolutely.
In a layman's language. And $2 billion is in domestic assets.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it is a very unique mutual fund. We'll talk about what Whiteoak philosophy is with Aashish. Whiteoak under Aashish acquired Yes Mutual Fund, right, from Yes Bank, and now you manage approximately 5,000 crores.
Yes, just over 5,000.
That's just over 5,000 crores in equity assets.
Yes.
So Aashish, welcome to the interview, and I'm sure anybody who is going to listen to this podcast, the interview part of it is going to learn a lot. There will be a lot of, it will be a very steep knowledge curve for people who are listening to us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope it's useful for your listeners.
It would be useful, Aashish. It is up to me how much I extract from you. Your profile is so huge. It's not complete without me telling about some of the awards that you won. So you've been given an award by CNBC for CNBC India Business Leadership Award, right? Distinguished Alumni of NMIMS 2018.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you know Aashish. You are my 3 years my senior in Nursing Monji. That makes you older than me, right? So we are both from Nursing Monji in Bombay.
Yeah.
And you also won the LinkedIn Power Profile. This is 1% of the people in LinkedIn.
Yeah, the top 1%,
most searched, most viewed profile. Wonderful. It should be now 0.5% by now. What do I say? Now, let me start. Aashish, let me grill you. It's a wonderful opportunity. I'm not going to let you go away so easily.
My pleasure.
Aashish, are you a fan or a proponent of liberal arts? See, in one of your in your profile, one thing which came out glaringly to me is that you are a BE in polymer sciences from Pune University.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Does it help or was it a waste?
No, see, in the early days, especially after what Mr. Amir Khan spoke in Three Idiots, that people who have no clue, first they become engineers and then they become MBA in finance.
Yes.
So, in the early years, even I got that sense that, on a lighter note, क्या होता है कि हमारे country में, in our country, boys, first they become engineer, then they decide what to do.
So that period between 12th and first year, rather than deciding what to do, let's fill the engineering form.
Fill the engineering form. And my thing was peculiar actually, because I distinctly remember, and my sister is the best, she will be the best source to confirm this.
Yeah.
The reality is that the first time I said I want to be an engineer was I was 3 years old.
Okay.
Because for me, I was fascinated by trains.
Okay.
And for me, I thought that the person who pilots the locomotive of a train.
Is it true? Every boy growing up in India wants to become engineer is one who runs the engine, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I thought. So maybe we should investigate this sometime. But I told my sister that I'll be an engineer, and I think then I kept saying I'll be an engineer. Finally, I became an engineer. But by the time I became an engineer, I realized that they pay engineers very poorly in our country.
Yeah.
And then, I went on to study finance. Because, even when I was in engineering, because of my seniors and some friends, and when I joined engineering, Harshad Mehta and Scam 92 became a very big thing.
Okay.
So suddenly the stock market was on the front page of even Midday, for example, forget Economic Times.
Okay.
Right. So that's how I went from engineering to finance.
Okay.
And in the early days, I thought it happened purely because no use, why did I do it? But I'll tell you one thing, over the years I have learned that it doesn't go waste. Because sometimes, when you're trying to understand a complex problem, and thinking of it linearly, approaching any problem from just one direction will give you limited perspective.
Yes.
But if you can approach the same problem from multiple directions, and by the way, it's not my idea, very famous investors have said that multidisciplinary thinking is very useful. And
Charlie Munger,
Charlie Munger, and I have myself written articles on understanding financial market phenomena from the lens of physics or chemistry, right? Or even engineering, mechanical engineering. And I think there's a very famous book on this which I would highly recommend. There's a book called Investing, The Last Liberal Art. That's by Robert Hagstrom.
Yes.
So I think that first of all, fundamentally no education goes waste.
Right.
And second of all, I think engineering education is quite important to understand markets and understand finance.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's a waste. In my early days, I used to think that, did I really waste my time? But as I have grown older, I have realized it doesn't go waste at all. It helps you understand things better.
So Aashish, if there are two candidates who applied for you are an MD and CEO of Whiteoak, two candidates apply, other things being equal, everything else is same. One is a graduate from, the typical background. One is a chartered accountant and did an MBA finance and applies to you. Another candidate is all over the place, maybe from the science background, or why not from an arts background.
You're right.
And she applies and he applies. Whom will you prefer? Other things being equal.
So see, I think when you say other things being equal, I'm sure you're saying, fitment and, candidature, etc.
Yes.
So I'll tell you, it might seem odd to you. And a lot of people might not be happy to hear this, but my personal preference is to hire chartered accountants actually.
Okay.
If you ask me.
Okay. So I'm a CA, I'm eligible, okay?
Yeah. So when you said all things, see, because you 2-3 times said all things being equal.
Yeah.
Which means that, communication skills and fitment for the job and the experience and everything, right?
Yes.
But I still find that, in certain aspects, when it comes to finance, fund management, many roles, I think chartered accountants, especially now,
even today,
I think that they are. I think the attention to detail.
So if I rephrase the question, the other candidate is a BCom, not a chartered accountant, and did an MBA finance, some background of finance, commerce, finance background, and the candidate number one has no finance background.
No, see, if there is no finance background, then I just have to go by the experience and the delivery on previous jobs.
Okay.
Correct. But if you were to keep the comparison in a way that, okay, one of them is a CA, then I would go for the CA. The reason being that, see, first of all, what I've seen is that if you look at B schools, let's understand one thing. In a B school, difficult to get in.
Yeah.
But everybody comes out with a degree.
Yes. Nobody fails.
Nobody fails. Right. Whereas in a CA, I think anybody can get in.
Yes. But very difficult. Wow.
But very difficult.
Yes.
See, look,
so if you have come out from a chartered accountancy, that means there is a certain rigor that you have gone through.
There is rigor, and I think very important is what I've learned, what I've seen is that in B schools people don't learn process orientation. I think, see, in B schools, there's a lot of focus on knowledge, communication,
Yes.
but not enough focus on process.
Right.
Whereas what I've seen is that people who are chartered accountants, because of their articleship, because of the audits that they do, and because it is ultimately, I think accounting is process oriented. I don't think you can do it without being process oriented or without at least following some basic processes. Plus, over the years, I have seen that for CAs also the curriculum has widened quite.
Okay.
It's no more accounting and taxation. My sense is that it has widened quite a bit.
Okay.
And in my personal experience, I have seen that chartered accountants can be quite successful even in professions like sales, for example. So yeah, I mean, over the number of years, I have seen that they tend to do very, very well, at least in our industry.
And somebody from liberal arts?
Yeah, so that's what I said. So there, I think, see, clearly, I have already told you that having a multivariate background, that definitely helps because it will give you outstanding perspective.
Right.
And your understanding of financial market phenomena, your understanding to approach a problem from different perspectives, worldly wise,
Yes.
all those things would be super. But what happens is that fund management, in that sense, is a specialized skill. So liberal arts background, I think, is an advantage, no doubt about it. But then, when it comes to financial acumen, when it comes to delivering track record, etc., then one would need to see application at the job.
So the candidate is very trainable.
Yeah, I think it works.
I mean,
think it works.
you
It's a better
wouldn't
background.
want, if you have 10 fund managers, you wouldn't want all 10 from the same ilk.
Yes, absolutely.
You would want a new thought
Yes,
process.
yes.
So that's where
So
the question
I think there is more and more liberal arts is finding more and more footing. There is no doubt about it.
Okay.
And that has also come. See, that has also come with the appreciation that
multidisciplinary approach is
thinking.
important.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that appreciation has also come in recent times.
Yes.
So I would say that it works. Ultimately, there is no one scientific formula for.
But you'll not close door to a non-finance graduate at all.
See, doors are not closed to anybody. Doors are not closed to anybody. When I'm answering, I'll just answer by my experience or what I have observed.
Yes. Okay. Ashish, I mean, so that, the AUM Finance podcast,
Yeah.
I'll never ask you a question, आज market में क्या करना है? ठीक है? आपको क्या लगता है? क्या लग रहा है market का and all that stuff? What is the future? Where do you think the interest rates are going? So, see, there's a lot of competition there. So, when I launched this podcast, I followed the blue ocean strategy.
Right.
Let me, in my podcast, interview people like you, people of your caliber, and teach the next generation. And why not the generation after that?
Yeah.
So, this podcast, we do not want to be ephemeral, but eternal. Even 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, if somebody listens to this podcast, it should be relevant to that person.
Sure.
And we believe in talking about first principles.
Absolutely.
So I'll make it very basic.
Sure.
But as you would agree, it is in the basics that the secret lies.
No doubt about it.
So the first very basic question, at its heart, what is investing?
Yeah, I think it is about, maintaining or growing your purchasing power. Okay. I think that is the single
Growing the purchasing power is investing.
Absolutely. Because we all know that if we do everything right, there are phases. See, clearly, if you see, there are let's say when you're a kid or a student, you have no income, you have only expense. So you're dependent on someone to fend for it.
Yes.
When you become old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You will basically have again expenses and no income.
Yes.
So again, either somebody has to fend for it, or you would have had some.
Great. So when
saving
you are
or
a child,
surplus.
you have expenses and no income.
Correct.
When you retire, again you have expenses and no income.
Yeah.
So that
The
these are
period in
redeeming
between.
phase. The period in between is the investing phase.
If you do it right, then that time you will have more income and less expense.
Okay.
वरना उसका भी कोई guarantee नहीं है वैसे.
Yeah.
So the point is that when you are investing, right, at its heart, investing is basically, if you ask me, it's more about ensuring that through your lifetime. See, when you're a kid, it's great, nobody's asking you anything. But the moment you become an adult, till the rest of your life, these income and expense related imbalances, right? Because in your early age, if you earn properly, then you'll have more income and less expense.
Yeah.
Which is what will help you eventually in your old age
Yeah.
to meet your expenses without any income or having minuscule income or income only which comes as a result of your previous
Great.
investment.
Yes.
So I think we all have to bridge that gap, and we all have to bridge that gap by maintaining or growing our standard of living. See, what happens is that when you're investing, at the lowest level comes the need to beat inflation, right?
Yes.
Then comes that, okay, so if to beat inflation, you have to grow your money at a certain level.
So you're preserving the purchasing power of the money.
Yeah. Then it comes about enhancing the purchasing power. So meaning inflation plus.
Yes.
Then it comes about meeting your goals and ambitions.
And desires.
And then it also goes beyond desire to dreams, right?
Yes.
See, I'll give you an example. There was a point in time, let's say I've saved a lot of money.
Yeah.
For a vacation, say Dubai is one of the most commonly visited. So let's say I want to go to Dubai.
Yeah.
I save money over a year or two, and I decide that, okay, I'm finally going to make that trip to Dubai. Now what will happen is, when I'm boarding the flight, I distinctly remember this. I was flying Emirates, right? When I was boarding the flight, they scanned my passport, scanned my boarding pass, and they let me in. So you start with the aero bridge. अभी प्रॉब्लम क्या है, पैसा तो बचा लिया आपने दुबई जाने के लिए, लेकिन जब आप एमिरेट्स का A380 फ्लाइट का जब एरो ब्रिज में जाते हैं ना, तो पहले एक लेफ्ट टर्न आता है फर्स्ट क्लास का, फिर बिजनेस क्लास भी आता है.
Have they designed it purposely that you pass through first class?
मुझे तो ऐसा ही लगता है. And when you enter in, from the distance you can see a staircase which goes upstairs.
Yeah.
So क्या है कि इन्वेस्टिंग में इन्फ्लेशन बीट करना है, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग मेंटेन करना है, ड्रीम्स एस्पिरेशन, मतलब ये एस्पिरेशंस गोल्स, लेकिन आगे ड्रीम्स भी है. तो आई थिंक देयर इज नो एंड टू व्हाट वन कैन.
Wants can be controlled, desires there's no end.
Yeah. And I don't think that we all are living this life just to meet our needs.
Yes.
Because we are human beings.
Yes.
अगर खाली नीड्स पे आके रुक जाते तो हम भी जंगल में होते हैं.
बराबर.
Right, but we have wants. That's why the world is.
So that's why we invest.
Yeah. So for all of this, I think investing is just like breathing. It's like oxygen. If you don't invest, and if you don't have perspective that throughout your life there'll be income and expense imbalance.
Yes.
And you have to manage it.
Yes. Okay. And so investing also helps us create passive income.
Absolutely.
You cannot rely, no matter how good your salary is, you cannot rely on your income from your own hard work.
Because
you have to make money work also.
Yeah, of course. See, because either if you have, I don't think we can all work at the same pace.
Yes.
And with the same passion right through our lifetime.
Yes.
If I can, I'll be very happy. But I think that at some point in time,
there'll be a burnout.
Competencies, capabilities, health, like you said, fatigue, burnout. There will be a point in time where your income will have to give way to your investments, meeting all these things.
Right.
So when you are able to earn, you should maximize that. And when you are able to earn, and if you're doing things right, then hopefully your expenses are not exceeding your earning. And you are setting something aside.
Yes.
Because what you are able to set aside will eventually fend for the phase when there will be no active income really. So then it's only this passive income which is going to
the third phase in
help
life.
us. Absolutely, the third phase.
So the middle phase where you're supposed to earn and provide not only for yourself but for your family.
Yes.
Okay. So when you are growing up, when you are a child, somebody is providing for you. Then you enter an age, and initially the income expenses gap is not much. Then slowly and steadily as you go up the career, the income expenses gap increases. If you are wise enough to invest it in a good instrument, you are providing for that redeeming phase that will come when the investing phase is over, when the burnout is over. So maybe typically in India, what one would have 2.5, 3 decades at
for
max?
working, 3 decades at least, 3 decades,
Or we can also say at most, you never know.
Yeah,
there's a physical burnout, there's a mental burnout.
Yeah, and nowadays what is happening is that careers are also, sometimes careers are getting shortened.
Yes.
If you're not able to reach a particular level by a particular age.
Right.
Then, I think careers can, either they need to be reinvented or they could get phased out or,
And fortunately, we are in a field where our shelf life is high. But people like celebrities,
absolutely,
people from Bollywood, Hollywood, people from sportsmen. So I had a cricketer client, a Ranji player and all, right? Yeah. I mean, either, so as they say, as quoting one of the Shark from Shark Tank, either he's a hero or he's a zero.
Yeah, absolutely.
Either you learn too much
or
you'll not earn enough. If you're not, and I keep telling my sportsman client that you see you have these 10 years of golden period. Do not spend it on day one.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that 10 year also can be cut short to 5.
Exactly. Injury हो सकता है
कुछ भी हो सकता है आपका. Tomorrow, today you are a hero and tomorrow you might not be selected.
Yeah, see, that's the whole point, that when you are earning, how you treat the money, it really matters a lot.
That's how money will treat you later on.
Later on, yeah. Yeah. So no doubt about it.
Ashish, what is equity? Why equity? Why not equity?
See, I'll tell you what, when you look at things logically, equity, see, ultimately क्या होता है? We all cannot be in every business. Okay, let us say that I am running an asset management company. The richest man in India.
So asset management company is a mutual fund.
Fund.
Technically, it is known as an AMC or an asset management company.
So I have a profession. You have a profession. Our viewers here have a profession. Let's take an example. The richest man in India runs a oil refinery, and based on that oil refinery, he has set up a retailing business. He has set up telecom. He has set up multiple financial services. Now, all of us cannot set up an oil refinery. If you and me may be very gung-ho about oil consumption or diesel and petrol usage or plastics, doesn't mean you and me can set up an oil refinery.
True.
But if we are very convinced about the potential and the prospects, the least we can do is buy equity in his company so that we can also become, and by the way, it is equal partner almost.
Because you become a partial shareholder.
Depending on what's your shareholding, you are that much. And equal rights. By the way, you're not running the company.
Yes.
He's running the company.
Yes.
But if whatever dividend the company declares, he'll get as per his share, you will get as per your share.
So even if I own one share of Reliance Industries, let's say for example, so if tomorrow morning Mukesh bhai goes to work, he's also partially working for me.
He's working for you, 100%. No
okay, that is equity.
Absolutely. And you can see the stock price performance and decide to get out, but he cannot do that. He still has to go to office even if the price is.
He has to work for the same business.
He has to still work.
But we have so many 7,000 choices in India.
Absolutely. So what happens is that equity is the simplest way to participate in the economy and to businesses which contribute to the economy.
In the prosperity of other businesses.
And the other important thing is that equity sits the highest on the value chain, on the food chain. When it comes to the capital structure, it sits the topmost. See,
can you explain that in simple terms?
Yeah, see, because look at it this way. Other than buying equity, we put money in the bank.
Yeah.
What will the bank do? The bank will again give it to some businessman or real estate developer or someone as a input, as a factor of production. They are giving money to that guy. If you buy real estate, right? Real estate also, some commercial towers are running, some malls are running, warehouses are running, right? It's a factor of production. So when you lend money to someone, let us say that the cost of borrowing for that person is say 10%, 11%, and you are going to get either that much interest or through the bank, some FD, you are going to get interest basically, right? Now what happens is that any businessman who borrows money from you directly through a bond or via a bank or whichever way, anybody who borrows from you at 8, 9 or 10%, clearly they are not setting up that business just because they love for you and want to give you that 8 or 9%.
They want to earn much more than that.
Yeah. So for them, what are their input costs?
Yes.
Paying interest to you on your money is only one cost. Apart from that, there are raw materials, employees, there will be electricity, right? There will be taxes that they have to pay. So many things are there. Correct? So just imagine that to pay you 10% on the capital which has been borrowed, to pay you 10%, how much they need to earn. Correct? So what is happening is that equity is ultimately the manifestation of ownership. And equity sits right on top, because if you really ask me, the people who are actually the businessmen or the entrepreneur, if they are not going to make money, they are not going to need to borrow. They don't need to employ anybody. They don't need to lease any commercial premises, and they are not going to be able to pay taxes to the government. So it's a very, very basic thing of markets or capitalism, that businesses are run for the equity owner. Only if the equity owner is going to make money, then everybody else in the chain is going to exist even really.
So this is the food chain that you were talking about, and other things being equal, you would prefer, and I would prefer to be a owner rather than a loaner.
Absolutely. See, because equity is like I mentioned to you, When we study accounts, there's this basic concept of going concern.
Yes.
So here's a statement I'm making that for a going concern, the equity owner, entrepreneur, businessman, whatever you call, for a going concern, the equity owner or entrepreneur has to make more than the lenders. That's true or false?
Yes.
It's a true statement.
It's a true statement.
Because if the entrepreneur or equity owner or businessman is not going to make more than the lenders, it won't remain a going concern. At some point in time, it will hit the roadblock and it will be shut down. Unless it's a government company.
So you are saying equity is where the malai is.
Absolutely. If there is, I would go to the extent of saying that if there is no equity, then there is no need for debt and bonds, and then there is no need for borrowing, and there is no need for the stock market or capital markets or for finance. All of these exist because there is an equity owner who is a businessman who has this, thing in him to take risks and put ideas to fructification.
Right.
Right.
So, right.
And who will borrow money from you or take money from you by way of
Somebody
equity?
who trusts you with your money.
See, it's like this. The world is divided into two people. There are people who have ideas but not enough capital to implement those ideas.
Yes.
And there are people who have capital but not enough ideas or risk appetite to execute those ideas.
Capital moves from people who have capital but not able to ideate or execute it to people who have the will to execute it.
Yes.
So capital moves from year to year. And if I become a shareholder...
this guy with ideas, if he doesn't have enough ideas or if he doesn't want to take risk or if the whole system does not make his ideas commercially viable, then the system will not exist. It doesn't need to exist.
That is how the entire startup ecosystem has been created.
That is how it is.
On one side, there are people who are willing to take the risk. They have ideas and they have execution skills. There are other side people with capital but don't have the time and the wherewithal to do it.
They may not be having risk appetite. They may not be having time. They may not be having ideas. They may not have spotted the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the AUM Finance podcast. Remember that all investments are subject to market and other risks, and one should read offer docs and other documents carefully before investing.